Hello everyone, and welcome to our backyard. As you can see, we were a part of the Gulf Coast that received this polar vortex in January here, and I think almost all of the Gulf Coast got snow or freezing rain. And so as you can see, my garden is in snow, unfortunately. So I was just going to go around and share a couple of things for those of you that have plants and are wondering, what survives, what doesn't. I wasn't able to do a whole lot of covering. I do have a few things in the garage, and I do have a few things that are covered. So let me go over to the tree bed. So my name is Crystal, and I garden in Zone 9B along the Texas Gulf Coast south of Houston. And you can see we got quite a bit of snow. This is very unusual for us. I've lived down here for 38 years and 38, 39. Oh no, almost. I've lived down here now 40 years. Goodness gracious. And I can tell you this is the most snow we have ever seen south of Houston in those years. So this was unusual and unfortunate, but it's very pretty. So one of the things that I have learned is if I try to cover some plants, they just don't do well. And it's going to get down to in the high teens tonight. So unfortunately, it's going to be a super hard freeze. So I am going to end up losing all of my vines here. They are going to die. The last few years I have wrapped them all the way around, kind of like you see here. I've wrapped my salvia with the blankets, and my passion vine does die back to the ground, and it will come up from the roots, hopefully. So far they have. But what is really important is to protect the base and the crown of the plant with leaves. And so I have leaves all in through here, nice big heavy pockets of leaves. And the snow, if it would have stayed, I've got it in some places, it could have acted as a little bit of a insulator for this hard freeze tonight. But having it packed with leaves hopefully will protect the crowns of the plants, and they will come up from the ground in the spring. So I did try to we did cover the tree bed, but it collapsed under the weight of the snow. We got quite a bit of snow today, and so we'll see. I ran out of leaves, so I wasn't able to pack leaves in this whole bed, unfortunately, so we covered with the blankets. And blankets are just blankets for plants. Okay, so if you follow my channel, you know I'm a huge fan of porterweed, and I feel really bad because I've lost all of my porterweed. I wasn't here on our first freeze. I was out of town, and so I was not able to cover my plants, and I don't think the porterweed would have survived anyway. They're super tender. You get close to 32, or you get to 32 or 31, and they are going to freeze. This was the beautiful red porterweed that was the dwarf, and it grew so nicely. One of the things that I've noticed as I pulled one of the long stems is we have tons of birds now in the winter, and I also count for Project Feeder Watch through Cornell University, and we've got, golly, 60 to 80 goldfinches that have been visiting us this week. And they love to take the seeds out of the porterweed and eat them also. So that's kind of fun and fun to see. So if you have porterweed, I don't know if it's going to come up since we're going to get such a hard freeze. I don't know if it will come back from the roots. So unfortunately, I think I might have lost all of my porterweed. I guess I'll just have to start my collection again. So we do have 3 hummingbirds here, and they are overwintering with us. A rufous, a ruby throat, and I think a buff belly. And so I make sure that I have clean hummingbird nectar for them, and I bring it in the evenings so it doesn't freeze. And I've been hearing them out today. Unfortunately, they don't have any blooms. They only have the nectar. The coral honeysuckle will be okay. They do fine in a freeze. It'll be a kind of a crapshoot on what makes it back here. Way in the back, my fire bush will come back from the ground, and that is absolutely fine. I hate it that the last 5 years now we've had a freeze every year, and it dies back to the ground, but it does come back, and it grows taller and bigger every year, but it takes a while for that to happen. So anyway, even though the snow is pretty, I could have certainly done without it because we had flowering plants. We even had butterflies. Can you believe it? Oh, I love it down here. But as you can see, cold temperatures, freezing temperatures, as most of you know in the United States, put everything to sleep. One of the challenges we have down here is our plants don't have a chance to get ready and go to sleep. So it was in the 60s before we got this yucky weather, and so we will lose plants due to that because it's such a shock to go from 60 close to 70 degrees down to in the 20s. Supposedly we might even get into the teens tonight, so that's why we end up losing a lot of plants, or have the potential to lose plants. While I hate to see my plants dead, there is certainly beauty to the ice and the snow. And one of the areas that I know I am going to lose them and have to replace are my tropical hibiscus. I just could not get them covered. They're pretty large, and this year they were not able to be saved. So unfortunately, I'll have to replace them. I'm going to go over to the shade bed and share what I did there. So back in through here, I have the yellow Salvia madrensis, and they got all frozen, unfortunately. But one of the things that has really successful is if you do build up the crowns again with all the leaves. And I was able to put leaves, big piles of leaves, all up in through here to protect the crowns and the roots. And then what I did is I put the leaves all throughout where my pipe vine is, and then put the blanket on top of it. And I had really good luck with that last year. And when I uncovered, they were still green and beautiful and gorgeous. So once we get through this, I'm really excited to see what this looks like. And I did the same over here with the fennel. So we'll see what this looks like. Isn't this crazy? I know most of the United States, you're used to snow, and I was born in the north, and so I'm certainly familiar with very cold temperatures. I went to college, and we would every winter have 20 below, 30 below zero. So walking to class. So I'm familiar. We had lots of snow. It's just we don't have this kind of weather down here along the Gulf Coast. It's very, very unusual for us. So I wanted to share just a few things that I did to hopefully save some of my plants. But I will be needing to replace plants, quite a few actually this year. I guess it's a good time to be able to plan and to think about, what would I like to change? You'll notice that I have a lot of bird feeders out. We have had tons of birds this last week, and today especially with all the snow and the cold temperatures, and just I'd have 100 birds in the yard, and so we're feeding them and providing water, and so they do have lots of places to be protected and eat. And it's been a lot of fun having them share the yard, even though it's looking pretty tough. Well, thanks for joining me. This was a really short video. I just wanted to share what's been going on in January. We got this crazy polar vortex down here south of Houston. We got quite a bit of snow. We got some sleet. We have some ice. It's going to freeze again tonight, a hard freeze, and so we'll probably have ice tomorrow. But after that, things should start to warm up again. So I hope you all are having a good winter season. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And I hope to see you again soon.